Welcome back, guys, to the Seeing Red MMA podcast here. I'm your host, Dustin, of course. This weekend, got some fights on the menu here as well, too. You got your main event, which was pushed from last weekend to this weekend to save this card, which I think at this point is kind of beyond saving. Songyadong versus Rickysimon is your bantamweight main event. You got 5 rounds between the two of them. Songyadong seems to be a slight underdog at plus 100, with Rickysimon being a minus 120. In the co-main event, you got I still don't know how to pronounce either of these guys' names, but I'm going to try my best. Caiobarralho versus michaloleksiejczuk. That's going to be a good one as well, too, at middleweight. That's your co-main event. Also, another middleweight belt, Rodolfovieira versus codybrundage. You got Julianerosa versus Fernando Padilla. And marcosrogeriodelima versus waldocortesacosta from the Contender Series. And is this fight still on? Joshquinlan versus Trey Waters? I don't know. I'll have to dive deeper into that one here. But some other fights on the card as well, too. But we'll kind of just dive right in, starting with the main event here. Very, very exciting main event, to say the least, between Songyadong and Rickysimon. Songyadong, of course, coming off that loss to Corey Sandhagen, where he did get that nasty cut over his forehead there. But Rickysimon's coming off a pretty, looking at it now, very good win over Jack Shore July of last year here. So both these guys have been inactive for a little bit there. But, yeah, I mean, this is really kind of a style matchup there. Got one of the kings of cardio, Rickysimon, who actually has a submission win over Merab Dvalishvili. Thank God somebody has at least beat Merab. But, yeah, you got that submission win over Merab there. I would probably say he's the king of cardio, but Rickysimon is a close second in this case here. But Songyadong's no punk either. I mean, that guy's got bombs for hands. I mean, at this kind of rate right now, it is Wednesday night. Songyadong being a plus 100, I would kind of lean more in Sadong's favor there, just because he is the heavier striker there. He does have a lot heavier hands. We've seen Rickysimon get dropped before. I mean, even Uriah Faber came out of retirement and dropped him in Sacramento in his return fight there. So with something like this, I do lean more towards the Songyadong route. Does he get the finish? I don't think so. I think Ricky's just really tough and knows how to, if he does get hurt, know how to protect himself and keep himself in the fight for as long as possible if need be. If you see me looking around, I apologize. I'm doing this out on my patio, so my neighbors might be watching me. I just had to give up the TV for a bit, so I didn't have my usual background with the fights going on. So just trying it out outside, seeing how it works as of now. But yeah, you got this fight coming up here this weekend. I got Songyadong probably getting a decision, if not maybe even a TKO victory over Rickysimon. That would be the bet I would place, and since Songyadong's a plus 100, why not? He's an underdog. Throw some cash on him. You got caiobarralho versus Oleksiejczuk. Now, Oleksiejczuk has moved down from light heavyweight, which is where he started his UFC career, to now middleweight. He actually holds a win over the guy fighting before him in codybrundage. He was able to win that fight with the TKO victory in the first round. Fight before that also got a TKO victory over Sam Alvey, and does have a unanimous decision loss to Dustin Jacoby. So looking at it here, I mean, no slouch by any means. I mean, he's got some really good wins, and he's got a type of body frame that doesn't really scream out fighter. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I guess he's a fighter. I mean, he's fought some really good names here. Bukowskis, Jimmy Crute. He's fought St. Preux. He's also fought Jean Vellante as well, too. So, I mean, he's got some pretty notable names under his belt as well, too. But Baralho's really coming in with some steam there. I know he won his last fight. That was on Fight Island against Muradov. I had Muradov to win that fight, but I was very wrong in that one. He got the unanimous decision win, but all of his fights in the UFC so far have all been unanimous decisions. Unanimous decision over Muradov, unanimous decision over Petrosian, unanimous decision over, Jesus Christ, what is that? Omar Gadziev? I think is how you say it. I have no idea, but those are his 3 fights, and they've all been decisions. So he's 3-0 in the UFC right now. If I had to bet, I mean, he is the favorite by a pretty large margin. Baralho is a minus, what was that? It just popped up. Sorry, my computer's running a little slow. There it is. He's a minus 365, while Oleksiejczuk is a plus 300 there. So, I mean, it's hard for me to take the dog in this one just because I know how good and dominant Barralho is and how he can take the fight to Oleksiejczuk and kind of keep him in position there as well, too. I mean, I think Barralho probably gets the unanimous decision again, continues his unanimous decision streak, or maybe even a submission, because I know that's not really Oleksiejczuk's forte. But we're moving on from that one to codybrundage versus Rodolfovieira. Codybrundage, like we said, just coming off that loss to Oleksiejczuk, but he's had some good victories as of late as well, too, besides that one. He's got that TKO win over Tresean Gore. It's actually a knockout over Tresean Gore. And he also has that win over Longiambula, submission win, back in March of last year. So he's got he's 2-1 in his last 3. He did lose that unanimous decision to Maximov, but no slouch there either. Rodolfovieira, I mean, if you know anything about this guy, I mean, he's just a submission wizard. Even though he does have that submission loss to Fluffy Hernandez not too long ago that just shook up the MMA world. It was just one of those fights where you're like, damn, like he should not have lost to that. He is coming off a unanimous decision loss to Chris Curtis, but I mean, Chris Curtis, we know how good he is. I know he's been kind of in some hot water as of lately with the MMA community, just kind of going at people over Twitter, but also has a win over Dustin Stolfels, third round submission, over him and aforementioned Hernandez. I think that Hernandez fight, I think that was just more of a gas tank issue there, because I mean, once he shouldn't have tapped to a choke like that. I remember it was kind of like I believe it was a guillotine, but in that kind of case, I wouldn't expect a guy who's been to the ADCCs and is just such a well-renowned grappler to tap to something like that. But yeah, I mean, if your gas tank's fried, your gas tank's fried. But Rodolfovieira is no punk there. I know Brundage is kind of known to be more of a wrestler as well too. So if codybrundage wants to stand with Rodolfo, which is what I would probably recommend, but who am I? Just some guy on his apartment patio talking about fights to you guys. I would probably try and strike with Rodolfo for as long as I can, and then I wouldn't recommend going to the ground with them unless you're extremely confident in your top game, maybe keeping them in guard and landing those big punches from the guarded position there. But we also got Julianerosa here, who I'm a big fan of. I remember his stint on The Ultimate Fighter as well too. I know he is coming off that KO head kick loss to Alex Caceres, but man, he's got some big recent wins as of late too. He's got the Hakeem Dawodu. He kind of pieced up Hakeem. And he's also got a split decision win over Peterson. He's got a win over Charles Jourdain. Charles Jourdain ain't no punk either. That dude's good. He did lose to Choi. He did beat Nate Landwehr. We all remember that fight with the flying knee. So I mean, he's got some sneaky wins under his belt. He just can't seem sometimes to like keep a win streak together. And I mean, that Alex Caceres fight, I mean, Caceres has been around for a minute, but that head kick that he landed, it was pretty nasty. But this guy, Fernando Padilla, he's 14-4 in the featherweight division right now. He is making his UFC debut as well too. But just to kind of get some insight on a guy like this, let's take a look at his stats here real quick, just on SureDog. I use SureDog because I'm old, and that's what I've been using for years. But he's got 14 wins, 4 losses here. His last fight, he won via TKO with an elbow in the Fury 46 championship. Has a split decision win over Nate Richardson. Oh, he actually has a unanimous decision loss to Spark Carlisle, but we all know Spark Carlisle there. The Ginger Ninja is what I call him. So, I mean, this is not a bad loss to have there. I mean, Spark Carlisle went to war with AJ McKee there, so we know he's a formidable opponent. But he's got TKO win over this guy, Donald Sanchez, a submission triangle over Fard Muhammad, unanimous decision loss, split decision loss, TKO win, submission win, KO win, submission win, decision loss, submission win, submission win, submission win, submission win, submission win, and his first fight ever was a decision win. So it seems like as of recently, he's been kind of racking up the wins as far as finishes, whether if that is a TKO, whether if that is a submission there, but it's hard to say just because, I mean, this guy's making his UFC debut, so we don't really know how good he is until we see him fight on Saturday. So in this kind of case here, there's no odds on the UFC's website for something like this, so I mean, if there is any odds on DraftKings, I would parlay julianerosa in there, just a money line, straight bet. But then you get to the heavyweight bangers, Rogerio, I've been saying that wrong the whole time, Rogeriodelima versus waldocortesacosta. We all know Acosta coming off the Contender Series, former baseball player, pitched really, really fast fastballs, which I guess does translate to hand speed, because, I mean, he's gotten some decent wins as of late, too. I mean, for only being pretty new into the MMA game, I mean, he has a win over Chase Sherman. He's got that win over Jared Vandera, too. So he's 2-0 in the UFC so far, both by unanimous decision, so he hasn't knocked anybody out. But still, I mean, the guy throws heavy hands. Not saying that Marcos doesn't either. I mean, Marcos does also throw very heavy hands. He's got a submission win over Arlovsky, which, I mean, not really proving my point, but does have the unanimous decision to Ivanov. Then he got that KO victory over Ben Rothwell. Another decision over, Maurice Green, you're a monster. Did lose to that shoulder choke against Alexander Romanov. And he does have that KO win over Ben Sassoli as well, too. So, I mean, it's kind of touch and go with Rodrigo, but he's kind of getting his bearings under him here as of recent. I know he's fought in, like, Stefan Struve. He's fought OSP. OSP was able to get the sub against him, too. So, it does kind of look like in this case his kryptonite is going to be the submission game, but luckily they paired him up nicely with the guy against, like, waldocortesacosta, because they both are going to throw really heavy hands and probably stay in the center of the cage. I mean, maybe you might see Marcos throw kind of some submissions there, whether if it's maybe going for like a guillotine, maybe try and take the back up against the fence and get a rear naked choke. But odds definitely reflect Lima minus 190, Acosta plus 160. I probably got Lima by decision in that one there. Josh Quinlan versus Trey Waters. Now, I am a big Josh Quinlan fan. This guy is a fighter's fighter. He's got some really good wins under his belt there. I know he's only has one fight in the UFC, but he does have a knockout victory over Jason Witt there. And if you remember that knockout over Jason Witt, it was pretty devastating. He just hit him with that check left hook there, and ever since I saw that, I was like, damn. This guy throws heat, because if you can knock somebody out with that kind of hook, even though that seemed to be his opponent's kind of fault because he kind of ran into it, but at the same time, though, like, it wasn't the first time his opponent's been knocked out by something like this. But Trey Waters is not a bad opponent for this guy who's only fought, this is his second fight in the UFC. He's 7-1 overall in his MMA career. No odds on this fight there, but, I mean, I would lean Josh Quinlan there just because, I mean, we've seen how hard he hits. It's pretty astonishing. So a guy like that at welterweight that's long and lengthy like he is, it always comes in shape and throws big, heavy strikes like that. I like to bet with that guy. Jake Collier, who got really fat after he left the UFC and came back from fighting at 185, now is fighting at heavyweight. I mean, good for him. I mean, wants to eat, but he's fighting Martin Boudet. Pretty much even odds there. Boudet's a minus 110, Collier's a minus 115, so not much you can really say about that. But Collier's got TKO'd by Chris Barnett. We all remember that one. I think that was when Chris Barnett. No, it wasn't. That was Jean Vellante when he did that. I mean, he does have the split decision loss to Arlovsky, and then he got submitted by Chase Sherman. Not looking great for him. He lost the unanimous decision to Felipe, has a decision over Jean Vellante, and then, of course, got knocked out by Tom Aspinall, which now we know how good Tom Aspinall is, so it's nothing to really hang your head over. I mean, the guy's top 5 in the heavyweight division right now. But Boudet, 11-1, Martin Boudet is. His last win was Brzezinski, which I think I remember watching that fight. Wasn't very fun to watch, but hey, Boudet does have a unanimous decision victory over Charles Bennett. But here's the thing, I don't remember that fight specifically. It says unanimous decision round 3, a minute 38 into round 3. So I don't know what happened in that fight, but something must have happened where they had to go to the scorecards. But another fight that I was looking forward to when I saw this now is because of the bad blood that's been going on. Charlesjohnson will be fighting Codydurden, flyweight. Codydurden known for being a wrestler. Charlesjohnson known for being a striker as well too. Codydurden, I mean, he's had some bad luck in the UFC as of late. I mean, he fought Mokaev, got choked out pretty quickly there. Charles Johnson just got beat by Ode Osborne, when I honestly thought you could have gave it to Charles Johnson in that fight there, but who am I? I'm just a guy on his patio. But Codydurden seems to be the underdog at plus 120. Charles Johnson seems to be minus 140. Now, I would kind of lean towards Durden in this fight there, especially having the more wrestling-heavy offense, especially a guy against Charles Johnson, who does keep his hands low. That does benefit him when fighting a wrestler, but we've seen that his takedown defense isn't A1, but he is really big for flyweight. I mean, he's one of the bigger guys at flyweight. But I would kind of lean more towards Codydurden in this case here. We got Stephanie Egger versus Irina Aleskeva. Who cares? Journeynewson is getting a new opponent. He was supposed to be fighting Brian Callagher. Now he is fighting the AZ reppin' boy, Marcusmcghee. Marcus, if you're watching this, and I know you are, I'm rooting for you, dog. You're plus 115 here. You're an underdog. I'm throwing some money on you this weekend. Hopefully you get it done, because I know you've been grinding on the regional circuit for a while here, and I mean, it's a 3-day notice, so man, if he gets it done on a 3-day notice in emphatic fashion against a guy like Journeynewson, you got to keep him around in the UFC there. Sign him, because I mean, he's been tearing it up here on the Arizona regional scene. I know most of the time, most of his fights here have been coming out of LFA. He did fight Luciano Ramos, got a 3rd round TKO. He fought at GOAT Promotions, got a TKO. He does have a couple losses here and there, but submission, rear naked choke in the 1st round there, but he has a KO streak. His first 4 fights did not see the 3rd round. First fight, 1st round KO in a minute. Second fight, 2nd round TKO in almost 4 minutes. Third fight, 2nd round KO in about 2 minutes into the 2nd round. Fourth fight, a 1st round KO in under a minute, 58 seconds. Then he has that rear naked choke loss. Then he has another TKO and another TKO. So this man comes to fight, and he's got very heavy hands here. I'm rooting for him. Let's go. Let's go put more Arizona guys on the map here, because people don't think of Arizona as one of the hotbeds for MMA, but the lab, we produce some scrappers. I mean, you got your wow, I just drew a blank. You got your guy Sugar Sean. You got legend Benson Henderson. You got Joe Diesel Riggs. You got McGee. And also, just to kind of throw this out here, I forget how to pronounce his name. Let me see if I can. There we go. Anho. Anho is 3-0 right now, and he fights out of Arizona. And I don't know if you are on ESPN or anything like that, but if you go to ESPN's Instagram, I know we're talking about Marcusmcghee, but this is one of his main training partners. He has a wild head kick KO where he kicked the guy so hard, the dude leapt off the ground and went horizontal and then landed. While the guy was coming forward too, he timed it perfectly. If we can get Marcusmcghee in the UFC and get him with the KO victory against a guy like Journeynewson, and if we can maybe get one more emphatic KO with Anho, I want to see Anho on the Dana White Contender Series. This kid is so good. His striking is so crisp. I like him a lot. He's only 22. I'm older than him. He was born in the year 2000. My brother is older than him. My brother, no, they're the same age. Scratch that. That was stupid. But still, he's 5'6". He's got a 66.5-inch reach. He's a good size for bantamweight. And who knows? Maybe he can cut down to... Or actually, excuse me, he fights at flyweight. What am I talking about? So there you go. You got a 5'6" flyweight that actually throws hands really hard and is able to put hands on people and knock them out. So I like them both a lot. The McGee and Ho, put them in the cage, please. Get them in the UFC. And then, yeah, Haley Cohen versus Jamie Lynn Horth, opening up the entire card on the early prelims. But that's it for your card here, boys. You got Songyadong, Rickysimon, caiobarralho versus Oleksiejczuk, rodolfovieira, codybrundage, Arosa, Delima, Acosta, Quinlan, Jake Collier, you thick motherfucker, Codydurden, Charles Johnson. And then the fight that I'm looking forward to, I mean, I even sent him a DM wishing him good luck and congratulations on getting to the UFC, and hopefully he can stay there, MarcusMcghee. That is your entire fight card for this weekend. Now, the card will be starting, as far as the prelims, will be starting at 1:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's here in Arizona. Main card will be starting at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's here in Arizona. So set your clocks accordingly. I'll probably have to watch the first half of the prelims at work. I'm not off till 3. Probably be able to get home to catch the start of the main card there. But yeah, that's your entire card for this weekend. I'll get a video up, probably posted Sunday or Monday in regards to a review of it. Depending on how the card goes, that'll depend on how long the video actually goes. Due to the kind of depth of this card, this one did go a little bit longer just because it's very top heavy on the main card as far as just underrated fighters that people kind of don't really talk about a lot, but also McGee. I wanted to talk about McGee because that news broke maybe like a couple hours earlier today, and I'm very excited about that. But yeah, that's your entire fight card this weekend. Tune in on the next video here. Make sure, if you like the video, to like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at SeeingRedMMA. Other than that, you guys have yourself a great rest of your day. Later, guys. Till next time.